So I've been playing a lot of Starfield, if you can't tell by the look of my tired face. I have a lot to say about this game, especially because it's been a long journey for me. It didn't immediately get its hooks in me. This game didn't immediately grab me, but ultimately I ended up enjoying it, not loving it, but really liking it. And what I do here, if you're new to this channel, the deal is basically I put out the big game ranks before you buy a video on Game Ranks, where I get into the nitty gritty and the technical stuff and all the systems and everything like that. And then over here, I usually like to come over and talk about some of my favorite aspects of the game, or just a little bit more personal, off the cuff reactions to it. So I know probably a lot of Starfield videos are going out over the next couple of days, so thank you for taking the time away from that Imagine Dragons Starfield song to come and listen to my video. I appreciate you. So Starfield is a Bethesda game. Like, it's a Bethesda-ass Bethesda game. I think expectations need to be set right at the start, because I see a lot of online discourse. I don't really engage in a lot of it anymore. I like to just be a normal human person about video games. I don't think this is like the end-all be-all thing. To me, after playing through it, it is very much another Bethesda game. It's got some shortcomings, it's got some goofy bugs, but ultimately it's got cool characters, cool lore, some fun weapons and stuff like that, and just good adventuring and some mysteries. The problem though is that it starts slow. Now this video is spoiler-free, I gotcha, not gonna really spoil anything. I'm trying to keep the gameplay to the earlier hours, because there are some really good surprises, but it starts kind of lame. You start out as a miner, there's not really too much going on. The game doesn't really have a big holy shit moment for a while. It kind of just slowly introduces you to everything, the worlds, the systems, stuff like that, which is fine. But the problem for me was that a lot of the early stuff just didn't grab me. Like the first big city, New Atlantis, is technically big and very cool, but just kind of felt very dull and weird. Some of the characters didn't really grab me right away, and because of that, I just decided to screw off and just go do my Bethesda game thing like you do in a Skyrim, an Oblivion, a Fallout. You just go wander off and forget about the main quest for hours. But I ended up regretting doing that, because I ended up going back to the main quest and getting a little bit further in and really turning around on a lot of the game. I said this in the before you buy, but I think you really got to get to like the city of Neon before things get really interesting and it's a little bit more fun to wander off the main quest. Because what I found really cool about Starfield is that like it has a lot of faction stuff and it wants you to jump into all of it. Like, it's very excited. It actually can streamline you into them pretty naturally if you're not careful, but that's where the game gets really interesting. That's where you're getting the cooler weapons, the weirder quest lines, some of the weirder characters and enemies. That's where it really starts to shine. So I know I'm kind of contradicting myself, where like in the beginning, I wandered off the main quest, didn't have fun. Then I got to the main quest again, and it kind of introduced me to better areas, better elements of the game, if that makes sense. I'm really kind of overcomplicating things, but I just kind of wanted to walk you through the process as I was playing the game, how I was feeling. I think ultimately with Starfield, I think because visually it doesn't look hot a lot of the times, and it still does have some of those goofy Bethesda bugs. I think some people are going to be really like uncharitable to this game. I think they're just going to throw a 10-second screenshot up that looks like shit and be like, I can't believe they made this bad game. Now, like, I've spent 60 hours in this game, and while I can see a lot of that stuff that doesn't look good, so much more has won me over, because I think it just is, like I said at the start, a Bethesda-ass Bethesda game. And if you are the type of person just looking for more of that, you're going to get that. I think in some aspects, it really disappointed me in terms of the space travel potential, the exploration potential. I know they've been pretty transparent about it closer to launch, but I'm not the type to compare, but I couldn't help but think of other games that have crushed different aspects, done them so much better. Space exploration, No Man's Sky. Some cool RPG dialogue, compelling characters, and good-looking characters in something like The Outer Worlds. But the thing that really sells it here is that, like, yes, many games have done some of these separate elements so much better, but in this collective package with that Bethesda feel, it's just nice. Maybe it's the presentation, the charm of some of the writing behind the characters, even if they got some dead faces. It's the music, it's still that sense of mystery. Like, as much as some of the planets are randomly generated and boring and flat, you're still occasionally coming across some cool stuff. Like, there is just a little bit more special stuff that outweighs some of the stuff that makes this game feel kind of old. not super fresh, you know? Ended up being surprised, ended up falling in love with a lot of characters and just being interested in the lore of this world. There's like a museum on one of the cities, there's some interesting stuff there, just some interesting history about humanity, and some of that ties into the main plot. But then you have characters like Sam Coe, who I briefly mentioned in the Before You Buy, but Sam Coe is someone that just looked like a punchable space cowboy guy. Like, I just wasn't about him, especially seeing him in the trailers. I was like, I think I hate that guy. He straight up looks like a randomly generated NPC that they put a cowboy hat on. But he's voiced by Elias Tefexis, the voice of Adam Jensen in the Deus Ex games, who I'm a big fan of. And also, he just had some good, compelling writing that ended up making me fall in love with him and bring him around for a lot of the adventure. He's got his own family issues, and sometimes he'll come to you and be like, hey, what? Am I doing okay? And you're like, hey, man, you're doing a good job. Things are going to be all right. And I like that. Like, it was good dialogue exchanges. And really, that to me is a lot of Constellation. Constellation, the group you were in, this group of space explorers that is kind of like the main through line, it's just a group of passionate people. And the game actually gets that across. Like, you are in a room of people that are just so hyped about space and the mysteries of it. And it's not like hammered over your head or anything. It just works pretty well. They're just characters that look like your typical characters on the surface, but end up being a little more unconventional. Like even Barrett, one of the first people you meet, who seems kind of annoying and weird at first. Like, it just felt kind of natural, despite a lot of the times the characters still being very stilted Bethesda characters, you know? And I think as the action ramps up, there's a lot of good weapons, a lot of good things at your disposal. I like the shooting a lot. I got excited for shootouts. It did end up encouraging some bloodlust. I was like 50-50. Either I did a lot of persuasion and stealth type stuff to get my way out of situations, or I was just shooting first, asking questions later, because I liked both ways of doing it. I got a little bit of that oomph from persuading my way through things and feeling kind of clever about it. I'm still not totally sold on the persuasion minigame and how it goes down, but it's okay. But then on the other hand, just the running, gunning, shooting, especially when you're in zero-G shootouts and you're floating around a space station, gunning dudes with a submachine gun as you float backwards, like that shit really hit. And all of that coupled with the music sells it for me. I think music for the past couple of Bethesda games have really elevated the experience, especially in the earlier hours of the game where I wasn't as into it. I found myself kind of bored. And even like with the space travel stuff, a lot of it is broken up by loading screens, and that is a disappointment. But every time your ship takes off, a ship that you built, mind you, and that Starfield theme plays, all of a sudden I just get freaking wrapped up in it, and I'm like, oh man, the majesty of space. What are we gonna do today? It sounds cheesy, it sounds like I'm like shilling or something, but like it did work for me. And I know I gushed about the shipbuilding in the Before You Buy, but that is probably my favorite aspect of the game. That was something I was looking forward to when they started announcing it and showing it off, and I'm happy that it actually lived up to my hopes. Building a ship in this game is awesome. Coming across different parts in different cities, working towards them, saving up money, just trying to get your actual vision onto a ship with a really good shipbuilding, easy to use system just scratched that itch for me. It was like building like settlements in Fallout 4, but way better, because it just is cool to walk through your ship and see your crewmates that you've delegated to certain areas in rooms that you built and constructed, and you put a porthole here and an emergency hatch here, and then getting out of your ship, again, through a freaking load screen, which is not great. Technical, significant compromises, again, things that just kind of make the game feel a little old, but still, then walking around on that landing pad and looking at your ship and seeing those changes in real time, it just has good, satisfying holy shit moments like that. Those are the holy crap moments. I said at the start of the video where like it doesn't have that big wow, oh my god moment right away. It's not like you're walking out of the sewers in Oblivion for the first time, or really walking down that first hill in Skyrim. It doesn't quite have that. But this game more slowly starts to reveal itself to you. Like I said at the start, like as you start building out your ship, as you stumble into factions and make mistakes and do stupid things and get a weird, cool gun. This is gonna sound bad, but I guess ultimately for me, it was like once I decided like, okay, stop comparing it to like No Man's Sky, stop comparing it to like any other epic space game or another RPG, and just accept it for what it is, a Bethesda Studios game, and just kind of that weird charm and quirk that comes with it, that's when I started to really open up to it. Now, again, that's not for everybody. There's a lot of people out there that were riding for Starfield to be like the second coming. And unfortunately, like I don't know if it is. I think some people are going to be head over heels for this game. For me, I really like it. I am still excited to like get off of this video and finish up some other work and the Friday show and stuff so I can get back to playing it and discovering more weird things. While it is held back by still just being a goofy Bethesda game with weird glitches and space exploration that is broken up by too many loading screens, there is still so much thrown at you to really kind of live in this world for a while. Really just kind of chill out in it, explore, craft weapons, modify your suit, change your ship, go fly to some random generated planet that looks like crap, but then you find a cool abandoned factory and then you get a cool gun and then you shoot more robots with it and the sound effects are good. Like, I am a simple man and the game has really been working for me in those aspects. It also helps that it feels pretty unique too, because they doubled down on that whole NASA punk style where it's like space exploration and civilizations, but it feels very grounded. The ship, a lot of the tech just looks somewhat believable and not like high fantasy sci-fi, coupled with the game kind of having a little bit too much film grain and a little bit of a desaturated filmic look. It's just got a little bit of a different identity to it that I've grown to really appreciate over the hours, especially when it comes to like that style and then digging into some of the lore they made. And again, it's hard to talk about this one without spoiling things because there is some stuff I want to talk about in another video. I definitely want to dive a little bit deeper in, but I think this one is like a lot of them where the sense of discovery, like you stumbling upon the stuff, is good. So I can recommend it, especially if you were someone who was just excited for it and just generally like Bethesda games. I think the people that were totally turned off by like Fallout 76 and thinks that like Todd Howard murdered their wife, I don't know if you're gonna like this. But if you like really paid attention and had a rough idea of what this game was going in, I think you'll have a good time. Flying around on your ship, the epic music, also a really good photo mode, like just a straightforward photo mode that works, and I take cool pictures of my ship on the rings of Saturn. Like, I'm happy it has that. I'm going to mess around with that more, and I'm looking forward to seeing what other weird stuff I discover and the community discovers, because there's a lot of like really funny, crazy shit in this game that I can't share because I don't want to ruin the surprise, but there's some stuff that I was like, whoa, what? There were other things that made me genuinely laugh out loud, and I think this conversation's gonna go on for a while because this is a big game. Like, it's massive. Even without just like the randomly generated planets with like more filler stuff, like in general, it seems really big. So again, just throwing this out there, some of the things I really liked about the game, just kind of my thought process, just kind of off the cuff stuff. Again, I think if I didn't answer some of your questions here, please check out the Before You Buy on GameRanks. I worked very hard on it. You can click the link somewhere to find that. But once the game is out and people start like really sifting through it, I'm gonna talk about it a little more. So keep your eyes peeled for another video. And then there's like plenty of other games coming out, so there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, I've talked myself in circles with this one, but thank you very much for listening to me ramble about this stuff. On this channel, I'm just talking about stuff I love, so thanks for kicking around with me. I'm Jake Baldino. You can subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.